The freezing San Francisco morning cut through Tom's worn jacket like 1,000 tiny knives. February 2010, another day of survival. Tom huddled deeper into the alcove near Apple headquarters, his cardboard shelter offering little protection from the bitter wind. His hands shook, not from the cold, but from memories that haunted him even in daylight. Afghanistan, 2003. The explosion that took his squad and left him with the scars no one could see. 7 years later, here he was, a decorated veteran sleeping on concrete. The irony wasn't lost on him. Just blocks away, tech millionaires were probably waking up in warm beds, checking their smartphones, living lives he couldn't even imagine anymore. He fumbled in his pocket for the day-old sandwich someone had given him yesterday. His fingers, once steady enough to defuse bombs, now trembled as he unwrapped it. Just another day, he muttered to himself. But fate had other plans. The sound of a sputtering engine broke through the morning silence. Tom looked up to see a silver Mercedes stopped in the middle of the street, hazard lights blinking weakly. The hood popped open and a thin figure in a black turtleneck emerged, clearly frustrated. Even from a distance, Tom recognized him. Steve Jobs. The man whose face appeared on billboards, whose products filled store windows, whose name meant innovation and billions of dollars. And right now, he looked like any other guy with a dead car. Tom watched as Jobs paced around the vehicle, phone pressed to his ear. Even from here, Tom could see the irritation in his movements. The morning traffic was starting to build, horns beginning to honk. Something stirred in Tom's chest. Not pity, men like Jobs didn't need pity, but something else. Understanding. Everyone needed help sometimes, even billionaires. Tom stood up slowly, his joints protesting from the cold night on concrete. He straightened his jacket, pointless really, the holes and stains told their own story, and walked toward the car. Need a hand? Jobs looked up and Tom saw the flash of recognition, not of him personally, but of what he represented. Homeless, probably asking for money. "I'm fine," Jobs said curtly. "Roadside assistance is coming." Tom nodded but didn't leave. Instead, he moved to the front of the car, studying the engine. "Sounds like your alternator," he said quietly. "Had the same problem with Humvees in Kabul. Different car, same issue." Jobs paused, really looked at him for the first time. "You know about cars?" Jobs asked, skepticism clear in his voice. "Used to be a mechanic, Army, 82nd Airborne." Tom's voice was steady, professional. "Mind if I take a look?" For a moment, Jobs said nothing. Then, perhaps curious or maybe just desperate to get moving, he stepped aside. "Go ahead." Tom leaned into the engine, his movements becoming sure despite the tremor in his hands. This, he knew, this made sense in a way the civilian world never had since he'd come home. "Yeah, alternator belt is loose. You got any tools?" "In the trunk." As Tom worked, he was aware of Jobs watching him, not with the usual wariness people showed around the homeless, but with genuine interest. "You said Army." 3 tours, came back in 2006. Tom didn't elaborate, didn't mention the medals or the discharge papers he still carried in his backpack. Didn't mention how he couldn't hold a job when every backfiring car sent him diving for cover. "Why are you—" Jobs started, then stopped. "On the streets," Tom finished. "Life happens, not everyone comes back whole." His hands moved efficiently, muscle memory taking over. Tighten here, adjust there, simple fixes that made all the difference. "Try it now." Jobs slid back into the driver's seat. The engine roared to life, smooth and strong. Jobs stepped out of the car, reaching for his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" Tom stepped back, shaking his head. "Nothing." "Come on, you just saved me from being late to a board meeting. Let me—" I said nothing. Tom's voice was firm. "Not everything's about money." Jobs paused, wallet still in hand. "Then why?" Tom looked down at his shaking hands, then back at the billionaire. "Because for 5 minutes I got to be useful again. That's worth more than any money you could give me." Something shifted in Jobs' expression. The irritation, the hurry, the executive armor, it all fell away for just a moment. "What's your name?" Tom Harrison, Steve." He extended his hand and Tom shook it, noting how Jobs didn't flinch at the dirt under his fingernails. "Thank you, Tom. Just helping out." Jobs got back in his car but rolled down the window. "You hang around here often?" "Most mornings. The security guards don't bother me if I keep to the alcove." Jobs nodded, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he drove away. Tom went back to his cardboard shelter, the brief moment of purpose already fading. He'd helped a billionaire, so what? Tomorrow he'd still be homeless, still be haunted, still be invisible to most of the world. But for those few minutes, he'd mattered. The day passed like any other, spare change from passing strangers. A sandwich from the deli that threw out yesterday's stock, trying to stay warm, trying to stay sane. As night fell, Tom wrapped himself in his thin blanket, preparing for another cold night. He thought about Jobs, probably home in his mansion now, the morning's car trouble already forgotten. That's how the world worked. The rich stayed rich, the poor stayed poor. And broken soldiers slept on streets they'd fought to protect. But as Tom drifted off to an uneasy sleep, he didn't know that somewhere across the city, Steve Jobs was sitting at his desk, unable to forget the homeless veteran who'd refused his money, who'd just wanted to be useful, who'd reminded him of something he'd almost forgotten. That innovation wasn't just about products, it was about people. The next morning came too soon. Tom woke to someone gently shaking his shoulder, not rough like police, not angry like shop owners, just persistent. "Mr. Harrison? Mr. Tom Harrison?" Tom blinked up at a young man in an Apple Store uniform. "Yeah?" "Mr. Jobs sent me. He'd like to see you." Tom sat up, confused. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No, sir," he said, "to tell you." The young man checked his phone. "That he has a proposition about being useful." Tom's heart skipped. I can't go anywhere looking like this." "He said you'd say that." The employee smiled. "There's a shower and fresh clothes waiting at headquarters. Will you come?" Tom looked at his cardboard home, his few possessions in a torn backpack. What did he have to lose? Okay, Apple headquarters was a different world. Clean, bright, filled with people who moved with purpose. Tom felt like a fraud in the fresh jeans and t-shirt they had given him, but at least he was clean. The employee led him through corridors that seemed to go on forever, past rooms filled with things Tom couldn't even identify. Finally, they stopped at a simple door. "He's waiting inside," Tom knocked. "Come in." Jobs sat behind a cluttered desk, but he stood when Tom entered. "You came." "Curiosity, I guess." Tom shifted uncomfortably. "What's this about?" "Sit." "Please." Tom sat. "I went home yesterday and couldn't stop thinking about what you said. About being useful." Jobs leaned back. "Do you know what I hate most about our industry?" "No." "We throw things away. Old models, outdated tech, anything that's not cutting edge anymore, But the worst part, he paused. We do the same with the people. I don't understand, Tom said. You're a trained mechanic, electronics background, I'm assuming? Some, the army trained us on everything. And now you're on the streets because why? Really? Tom's jaw tightened. PTSD can't handle loud noises, crowds. Sometimes I forget where I am. Not exactly employee of the month material. According to who? Every job I've tried since coming home. Jobs stood, walking to the window. What if I told you we have a position here? Night shift, maintenance and repair. Quiet, mostly working alone. The loud machinery is in a different building. Tom's breath caught. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance to be useful. The job you'll have to earn. Think you can handle a trial period? I live on the streets. I don't have... There's temporary housing for new employees. Nothing fancy, but it has walls and heat. Jobs turned back. Look, I'm not running a charity here. I need good workers, but I also believe that sometimes, he paused, sometimes all people need is someone to see their value instead of their circumstances. Tom stared at the man who'd changed the world with computers and phones. Why? Why what? Why me? You could have forgotten about me, thrown money at me and driven away. Why this? Jobs sat back down. You want the PR answer or the truth? Truth. Because when you fixed my car, you didn't see Steve Jobs. You didn't see money or opportunity, you just saw a guy who needed help, and when I offered to pay, he shrugged. You reminded me that not everything valuable can be bought. That's a lesson I needed. So this is what? Payment for a philosophy lesson? No. Jobs' voice was firm. This is a job offer for a skilled mechanic who happens to be going through a rough patch. The question is... He leaned forward. Are you going to take it? Tom's hands shook harder than usual. A job, housing, a chance to be useful again. It seemed too good to be true. In his experience, things that seemed too good to be true usually were. What's the catch? The catch is you have to show up, do the work, stay clean. I assume there's no substance issues? No, just the ghosts in my head. We all have those. Jobs' voice was surprisingly gentle. The night shift supervisor is a vet too, Marines, he gets it. And if I have an episode, then we deal with it. Like humans helping humans. Tom felt the tears threaten. When was the last time he'd cried? I don't know what to say. Say yes, show up tonight at 10 p.m., give it a month. If it doesn't work out, no hard feelings. Tom stood on shaky legs. Okay, yes, I'll try. Jobs extended his hand again. This time, when Tom shook it, he noticed his own hands weren't shaking. One more thing, Jobs said. That comment yesterday about just wanting to be useful? That's going on my wall. Sometimes the most profound truths come from the most unexpected places. 10 p.m. came faster than Tom expected. He stood outside the employee entrance, clean-shaven, wearing the uniform they had given him. The temporary housing, a small studio apartment, had a bed, kitchenette, and, most importantly, a door that locked. He'd cried in the shower that morning. You must be Tom. A stocky man with Marine Corps tattoos visible under his sleeves approached. I'm Mike, night shift supervisor. Steve said you'd be starting tonight. Yay, I should tell you up front. I've got issues, PTSD, sometimes... Brother, Mike interrupted. Half my crew are vets with issues. You're among friends here. We look out for each other. For the first time in years... Tom felt hope. The work was straightforward. Maintaining equipment, basic repairs, inventory. His hands remembered the skills even when his mind wandered. "You're good at this," Mike observed after watching Tom work. "It makes sense. Machines are honest. They're either working or they're not. Unlike people, Mike clapped him on the shoulder. "Well, you'll fit right in here." Tom barely recognized himself in the break room mirror. Steady meals and regular sleep had filled out his frame. The shaking was still there, but manageable. The nightmares came less frequently. He had an apartment now, a real one that he paid for with his own earnings. Nothing fancy, but it was his. "Harrison, boss wants to see you." Tom's stomach dropped. Had he messed up? Was this where the fairy tale ended? He knocked on the familiar door. "Come in." Jobs looked up from his computer, that same intensity in his eyes. "6 months," he said without preamble. "Mike says you haven't missed a shift." "No, sir." "Says you've improved every process you've touched. Even created a new inventory system that saves 2 hours a night." Tom shrugged. "Just seemed more efficient." "Exactly." "Efficiency born from experience," Jobs stood. "I'm promoting you." "Day shift, training new maintenance staff, interested?" But the crowds, the noise, private workshop, small groups." "Mike says you're ready." Tom thought about it, teaching, passing on skills, being useful in a whole new way. "Okay, good." Jobs paused. "You know, that morning my car broke down. I was having one of the worst weeks of my life. Everything going wrong. Then this homeless vet appears and reminds me that helping each other is what makes us human." He smiled, a rare sight. "You saved more than my morning that day, Tom. You reminded me why we do what we do." A year later, Tom stood in front of a group of new hires, 3 of them veterans Mike had recruited from the streets. "Machines are honest," he told them, echoing words he'd once said. "They don't care about your past. Only whether you can fix them." He saw himself in their eyes, the doubt, the hope, the fear that this chance would be yanked away. Some of you are wondering why you're here. Why a company like Apple would take a chance on you. He paused. The truth is, they're not taking a chance. They're making an investment in skills, in perspective, in the idea that everyone has value. After the session, Tom walked past the spot where he had once slept. A new homeless person had claimed the alcove. Tom stopped, remembering. "Need a meal?" he asked. The man looked up, suspicious. "There's a deli around the corner. Come on." As they walked, Tom thought about cycles, about how one moment of kindness could ripple outward in ways no one expected. Steve Jobs had been right. Innovation wasn't just about products. It was about seeing potential where others saw problems. 5 years after that cold morning, Tom stood on stage at an Apple event wearing a suit he'd bought with his own money. He was introducing a new program, Veterans in Tech, an initiative he'd helped design. 5 years ago I was homeless, he began, his voice steady, sleeping in an alcove outside this very building. Then one morning I helped a man with car trouble. The audience was silent. That man saw something in me I'd forgotten existed. Not a homeless vet, not a charity case, but a person with the skills, with value, with something to contribute. He paused. Steve Jobs gave me a chance, not a handout, a chance. Today, we're announcing a program to give that same chance to veterans across the country because sometimes, his voice caught slightly, sometimes all someone needs is to be useful again. The applause was thunderous. Backstage, Jobs waited. Nice speech. I meant every word. I know, Jobs smiled. Remember what you said that morning? Not everything's about money. Yeah, You were right, the best investments aren't in products or stocks, they're in people. They shook hands, two men who'd met at their different rock bottoms and helped each other rise. Tom Harrison retired 10 years later as head of technical training at Apple, but his real legacy wasn't in the systems he had improved or the efficiency he'd created. It was in the lives he'd changed. Hundreds of veterans who'd found purpose again, homeless individuals who'd discovered they still had value, people society had written off who proved that everyone deserved a second chance. The program he'd helped create became a model for tech companies worldwide. Not charity, opportunity, not pity, respect. Tom kept a photo on his desk. Him in his army uniform, young and unbroken. Next to it, another photo, him shaking Steve Jobs' hand the day the veteran program launched. Two different men, two different lives, connected by a cold morning, a broken car, and a radical idea that helping someone should never be about what you get in return. In his final speech before retiring, Tom said, "I've fixed a lot of machines in my life. But the most important thing I've learned is that people aren't machines. We don't get thrown away when we break. We get repaired, rebuilt, reimagined." He paused, looking out at an audience full of people who'd been given second chances. We get to be useful again. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the impact lasted forever, because sometimes the smallest gestures, fixing a car, offering a job, seeing value where others see waste, can change not just one life, but thousands. Tom Harrison had helped Steve Jobs on a cold February morning, and in return, he'd helped Tom remember who he was. Not a homeless veteran, not a charity case, but a human being with value, skills, and the ability to change lives, just by being useful. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. More powerful and emotional stories are coming your way.